Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Football Fandemic, where we just finished week 1 and it was a crazy topsy-turvy up and down week. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's coming in week 2. Football's back here on the Football Fandemic. Guys, crazy week in the NFL. I feel like I say that so much when we're covering the NFL, and that's one of the things we love about it, that any week, anything can happen. And this week, there were some things we expected to happen that did. We'll talk about those. There were some things we definitely did not expect to happen that happened. So without further ado, Brandon, Josh, let's get into the week of football. We're not gonna talk about a lot of news right here at the beginning because we're gonna save some of that for the games. But Chiefs and Chris Jones did finally come to a 1-year deal, another one of these 1-year things. Mm-hmm. But I believe I heard that Chris Jones is like, I plan to be with the Chiefs for the long haul. Well, right now the long haul means 1 year.
This season, yeah.
Yeah, this season. And we'll see what happens after this season. Like I said, we're going to hold a lot of news till we're talking through some games here. But I do want to talk about the fact that we predicted a bunch of games at the beginning of the year. And I'm just going to be the first to admit, even as we go back and talk about those predictions, often I'm sitting here saying to Josh, who is the keeper of the predictions, I'm like, I didn't vote for them, did I? I thought I picked this person to win or that person to win. And he's like, nope, I went back and looked. Anyway, in our predictions, how did we do this week, Josh?
We went 9-7. I just have to find it real quick. I had it a minute ago. Anyway, yeah, we went 9-7 on the week. So our main competition, Adam Rank, I didn't check Monday night's game. I didn't really care because he was either 6-10, 7-9, or 8-8. So we already did better than he did. So we're already ahead of him. So that's all that matters.
Congratulations, boys. We're beating the national media.
We're beating Adam Rank for what that's worth.
Yeah, I got it on Twitter, actually. Let me pull it up real quick so we can go through each game and, just for.
I will tell you this one. I thought for sure that I picked the Jets to beat the Bills in an upset the week 1, but Josh said that was not so.
Might have. I think me and Matthew, or me and Brandon just predicted the.
Well, so I wasn't on that AFC East one.
I think
it might have. For that.
Maybe it was a coin flip, and Josh and the coin beat me. Yeah. I can't remember. If any of you go back and look at the hold on, he didn't tell me he was going to be sharing stuff. Okay, go for it.
There we go. Oh wait, that's yours. My bad. This is it. Sorry. All right, so we predicted the Lions to win, which was the upset of the week. Honestly, we all got that one right. We all predicted that one. Honestly.
Go Lions.
I believe this was one with Evan, me, and Matthew. I think we said that the Panthers, they're both teams would start out kind of slow, new quarterback, new offense, new whatever. And the Panthers.
Wait, we said the Panthers would win?
Yes.
Again, I disagree with this. I feel like the Falcons, I feel like I was saying Carolina's not going to win.
Majority vote happens with. We did say the Ravens would win. That was kind of an easy one. We said the Bengals. We said the Bengals would win. That was a surprise.
That's a big. I mean, Joe Burrow comes in, massive contract extension, and bam, only a field goal.
Let's just kind of mention some stuff about each of these games. Okay, let's go to the beginning. Our first one that we got right, the Lions over the Chiefs. I think this one showed clearly that Travis Kelce is missed when he doesn't play.
And because, Chris Jones, yes.
Well, because there were so many passes that would have changed that game that Kadarius Toney just dropped, and Sky Moore just dropped, and whoever the other Rice or whatever his name is just dropped. And those are the ones that Kelce would have hauled in and ran for like 20 more yards. Guaranteed would have changed the game because it was only a 1-point game, and Kelce would not have dropped all of those.
Now you know who didn't drop their passes. Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
There you go. But he wasn't enough by himself. But
even then, they didn't have a run. You didn't even have a running game to support, the Mahomes, constant.
Well, do they ever really?
I don't know.
It's really Travis Kelce that makes Patrick Mahomes Patrick Mahomes. So,
there's like 6 weeks a season where their running game is like, wow, they could have a decent thing. And the other 11 games, it's you run the ball 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we go to the Panthers and the Falcons. I personally didn't think Bryce Young was going to win a lot this year, especially early, but evidently we picked them, and I don't remember that. But we picked them and they lost, which I agree with. I believe the Falcons should have won that game. Again, I don't have any faith in Frank Reich's game calling either.
I'm just not sure. Even these teams both looked bad. I mean, Desmond Ritter looked scared to pass. He didn't have any passing yards. It was more of a Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier show. I think Algier had over 120 rushing yards and a touchdown, and Bijan Robinson had a receiving touchdown. I mean, it was the running back show basically. And I don't know, as a Falcons fan, I don't know if you're worried if Desmond Ritter can't get his act together, or if it's just, it's week 1, we'll figure it out. You know what I mean?
Well, it may be this. They've got a good, strong run game, and now maybe that'll open the pass game for Ritter because everybody starts planning for it, right? Ravens obviously beat the Texans. I thought that would happen. I think all of us thought that would happen. Not sold on C.J. Stroud, just saying.
It's one game.
Bengals,
it's one game.
One game. The Bengals, though, Brandon, you were getting ready to say about this one what you thought when the Bengals played the Browns.
What a freaking gut punch. Oh, my gosh. Joe Burrow gets this nice contract extension. He wasn't holding out. He was participating. He was everything. He was injured, participating as much as he could. He was still active with the team, gets this nice contract extension, comes out, and just completely lays an egg in the middle of the field.
Is it that when people get paid, they get worse? Or is it he was rusty because he hadn't really played?
I think it was his injury more so than anything else. But I was still impressed that Cleveland put up 24 points.
Cleveland's defense, though, too, man. I think it was their offense did work, of course. I mean, they scored 24 points, but their defense, man, I didn't expect that out of them at all.
I mean, we know what Myles Garrett has to offer. If he can't sack you, he'll rip your helmet off and beat you with it. Okay.
Right. Oh, Miles. Yep. Jags Colts. We picked the Jags to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have them splitting for the year.
Again, I think I'm in another universe because I almost feel like maybe this was just our predictions, but I feel like saying if the Colts are going to win against the Jags, it's going to be this first game where they don't have tape on.
That was last week. Whenever we did these prediction things, I
still felt like I said that back then, but maybe it was an overrule case. Maybe who knows? Anyway, the Colts did lose. There was a while where they looked like they could have won that game, and the defense was playing great. We're going to talk more about that game later, but Jags did in fact win, and the Trevor Lawrence, I think he's stepping up where he needs to.
Yeah.
Even then, talk about a comeback game, first comeback game for Calvin Ridley, dude. I mean, everybody expected him to be great, coming back, but not that great. Everybody expected him to kind of, I guess, mold or shape into what he used to be in Atlanta, but not this quick.
Didn't take a day off.
Helps when you have a quarterback that can throw the ball.
Yeah. It does. Tampa Bay and Vikings. This one was a surprise, I think, for all of us anyway.
It shocked everyone because what was Baker Mayfield going to do? He's supposed to be the goose egg of the NFL quarterbacks this season.
Evidently, though, he knew exactly what all of their signals meant, right?
Yeah,
that's what I hear. But yeah, it looked very lopsided for Tampa Bay. Vikings looked bad, and I just couldn't figure out why, unless Dalvin Cook really meant that much to that team.
I'd like to put all my eggs in that basket that Dalvin Cook did mean that much, and he's also the reason the Jets won. And I'd like to think the Vikings just lose every game from here on out for the rest of the season. But that there may be some bias creeping in there.
There may be. And I don't know that Dalvin Cook was the guy on the Jets. I think.
It was Breece Hall.
Breece Hall looked pretty good. Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there. All
right. Titans Saints. We picked Saints to win.
Titans.
How in the world did we pick? I feel like I hated the Titans all the way through. Anyway, we got that one wrong, but I agree with it 100%. Titans should have lost to the New Orleans Saints. I don't know how we picked that.
I think for this one, no one ever put into account that the Saints would have a comparable team. When we picked all the AFC first, I think AFC South was our second division we picked.
Yeah.
And so that Saints team was locked in our heads as already being awful before we even got to the NFC South.
Yeah, that's probably true. But man, the Titans were in my head as awful from like last year, and it never changed for me. So we somehow undervalued the Saints, and the Saints are looking better. So
Now, we were correct, and the San Francisco 49ers would beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was
they didn't
not expecting
They didn't just beat
beat
them.
down. Yeah, they didn't just beat them. They throttled them. So
I haven't
bad.
heard from any Steelers fans. If you're out there, put it in the chat. Let us know you're okay.
Here's the thing about Steelers fans. They're not going to say a word until they look better, because it's just not the time to be saying anything. That was a bad showing by Tomlin, Pickett, and crew.
Matthew, when we went through the quarterback rankings the other week, Kenny Pickett was decently high. Was he not?
He was when we looked at them,
he was like 16 or 17, somewhere in
the
there.
Preseason. He looked really good, we thought. And so when somebody did that little quarterback ranking, he was in the middle. But you know what? Didn't look that good. Of course, who knows? Everybody may look that bad against the 49ers. They may be just that good of a defense. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Cardinals surprised, I think, everybody, because everybody did expect them to be a big zero with Mr. Joshua Dobbs out there as quarterback, barely named, before the game started, and he was going against the Commanders D, and they didn't do great in their offense, but their defense looked like it was playing. We'll talk about that more in a minute too.
Bit,
yeah. Who else we got? Anybody? That was
Packers beating the Bears. We'll get more into that later.
We got that right. We all thought that would happen.
One that we got wrong. Again, my opinion is that the way it happened would have happened. That was not the opinion of the rest of the group, as the Raiders came in and beat the Broncos.
The truth is, in our minds, I think we think the Raiders and Broncos are both pretty junk teams. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they beat the Broncos doesn't vault them up, in my opinion, yet. I know they have Devontae Adams, and I do love him. Would love him on the Colts, obviously, but I'm not vaulting them to good greatness yet. Let's just see how they do against some other teams, because I think the Broncos are still going to be a hot mess this year.
Mm-hmm. But the problem, what isn't, I guess, a problem per se. Both quarterbacks, a low scoring game, but both quarterbacks looked like really not really good, but like quarterback starting quarterback worthy. Like they didn't make any turnovers, I don't think, and they looked like they controlled the game in their own, and they're on their own team.
Did you watch this one?
Yeah, some of it. I'm
not gonna lie. This was my manure pick last week, and the manure is, hey, don't even watch this game. It's not worth it. And so I took my own advice, didn't even watch it. So I don't know how they looked, but it seemed like a probable sort of outcome to me.
Ooh, this was my oh my
No,
game, Matthew. I think that's pretty accurate.
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't have time.
You took my advice, didn't you?
I essentially carved out time for just the Packers game. I obviously watched Thursday night. I watched the second half. I was working up until halftime.
You didn't watch any of Monday night? Don't tell me you didn't watch any.
Hold on. And then I watched starting play 7 is when I got off work.
Well, that was too late.
I know.
On Monday. We're going to talk why. And everybody knows. Everybody out there, you already know. Yeah. But too late. Hey, let's move on here. Miami killed the Chargers.
Dude, no, not even killed, but like
it was close.
It was close. It was close.
And like Tua,
I feel like they killed him because Tyreek Hill scored me almost 40 points in fantasy as they did whatever they did.
That's the reason he beat me in fantasy. But Tyreek, Tua and Tyreek, but Tyreek usually, is every week. Maybe he has a down week, but usually every week he has 100-something yards. But Tua looked electrifying. Tua looked like a top 10 quarterback in the league. And even the Chargers offense with new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore instead of Mike Lombardi or whatever, they look like a whole new team and like a playoff worthy team. Both of these teams look like, the Chargers look like a playoff worthy team, and the Dolphins look like an AFC East divisional contender, different divisional contender for the whole thing. Like,
just think what the Dolphins would look like if they had JT in the backfield. That would have been scary.
Matthew, Abigail wanted me to point out you made a huge deal that you took Tyreek Hill way too high in
Way
fantasy
too
football.
high, and he was the top scorer of the whole week.
So, she just wanted to make sure I brought that up.
I know. It was a mistake that worked in my favor for 1 week anyway. Now the old report did say I would win 3 games, and I said this would be one of my 3. I was right about that, but I don't know. Let's see if he can do it. If he can do it every week, and if Aaron Jones can do what he did every week, and of course Mark Andrews even plays, who I had as a tight end sitting there giving me big 0, and Sky Moore, I think, or somebody else giving me like 0.3. If I can get like a little, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. But who else? We had the Eagles, the Green Eagles, and the Patriots. Green Eagles beat them. We all thought they would.
Yeah, I think this was a much closer game than we thought. Though.
Definitely. Patriots looked like better than last year. I can't say nice because they didn't look like a playoff team. They kind of did, but they look nice, better than last year. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It's the turnovers that killed the Patriots. They turned the ball over in crucial moments, and I think they had 3 turnovers in that game, and I think all 3 times the Eagles capitalized on that.
That will do it. Yeah.
And this was also the game, I'm just going to bring it up because we're not going to talk about this game later. The 4-year retirement waiting period was waived for Tom Brady. So he was at the game, and they said, you will be in our Hall of Fame, and they'll have a more formal thing later on in the season.
Well, of course. Why would they not? I mean, goodness sakes. Rams and the Seahawks. We picked that one completely wrong.
Well, yeah, and the Seahawks didn't look great at all. And the Rams, the Seahawks we also predicted would do pretty well in the season. I think like 12 wins. We predicted the Rams at like 5 to 7 wins, and the Rams looked like they were another wild card team. Like they looked like they had everything back together from the Super Bowl run they had.
And somebody here named Brandon knows that it wasn't because of Cooper Kupp, right?
Yeah.
Brandon drafted Cooper Kupp.
Don't even know the name of. And I've
that you up. Got though. We both tried to pick him up on waivers, and Brandon got him. Pachuca or something.
Yeah.
Something. Dallas and New York. Dallas beat New York.
A much larger margin than anyone expected.
My goodness. Could you? Yeah. What was it? 40-0.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking the Packers Bears was going to be the largest margin we had in week 1. 18 points. Like that's a pretty good margin. But the Cowboys went into New York for their 9/11's Remembrance game. Of course, this was on the 10th. 9/11 was the next day, and another team was playing in that stadium.
Just heard that,
but for them to go in and just be like, goodbye. You guys are not legitimate contenders, but we are. And it wasn't even their offense that was doing the work. I have Dak Prescott. I have CeeDee Lamb on my fantasy team.
I had the Cowboys defense,
and they got me almost nothing.
League. Yeah, the
Cowboys defense
35 points in another
crazy?
League. And they were on the waiver wire or the waivers for our league in week 1 or before week 1 happened or whatever.
Who has them?
I can't remember. I wanted to pick them up and somebody else got them. So
that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. Okay, this last game, Bills Jets. We're going to talk about that. As a matter of fact, that's going to be our transition here as we move into talking about our teams. We this week and maybe going forward, we're each going to talk about our homer team just a bit and how that game went. And we're going to talk about one other game just to kind of reach out to some of the other teams that are out there. I want to start with the homer game though, the Colts versus the Jaguars. Like I said, I think Anthony Richardson did the best of all of the rookie quarterbacks that were playing, and I don't think that's even debatable when you look at like number of sacks, number of yards, touchdowns, all that stuff. Did he look great? No. There was some places where it looked a little rough. There was a scary point in there where we almost thought an Aaron Rodgers thing was happening, which is kind of jumping the gun here, but he went out of the game right at the end after getting hit and then kind of going back down on the turf. And then I'm like, oh no, not in the first game. Luckily, no big deal. A bruise on his left knee. And he is good to go for this weekend. And so we're all excited about that. We decided that, well, first of all, before I get to our MVP, our defense was really amazing in this game. Our offense had some bad plays and had some stuff that went wrong, but the defense they were hard on the Jags, and that was good to see. So hopefully they can keep that up. And my MVP of the game is DeForest Buckner, who is our on our defensive line, with honorable mention and almost picked Zaire Franklin. Zaire Franklin's name was all over the place. That guy was running around crazy. You just kept hearing his name called. And the reason DeForest Buckner got it is because he went in and strip sacked, caused a fumble of Trevor Lawrence. And then it bounced on the ground, and one of their players picked it up, and someone knocked it out. That was Zaire Franklin. Thinking. He walked over there. Everybody's just kind of standing around. He punches it out, and DeForest Buckner picks it up and runs it in for a touchdown. So it was a fumble recovered by the Jags, a fumble recovered by DeForest Buckner, who caused the first fumble, got the sack and the strip, and then DeForest Buckner ran it in. So he got a sack, a strip, the forced fumble, and then he got the touchdown off of a fumble recovery, all in the same play when there was two fumbles in the same. It was just a crazy play. DeForest Buckner deserved that. But Zaire Franklin was the one that punched it out, the one who was really thinking. He was also the one who was all over the field, so he gets honorable mention. But a very good game. I would have liked to seen a win there. I really thought if there was a chance for them to beat the Jags this year, it was going to be in that game one when nobody was really ready for Anthony Richardson, but that was not to be. We'll talk about a preview here in a minute. The second game is one that obviously everybody's been talking about ad nauseum, and that is the Jets-Bills. And it is obvious the reason why Aaron Rodgers' hype was huge. And I was one who watched all of Hard Knocks and was super excited about what this could be this year. And New York was in a frenzy, man. That pre-game, if you were watching it, all of the Aaron Rodgers love that was going on was just like in Hard Knocks, man. He was like the star of New York. It runs out with the American flag. 4 snaps later, he sits back down and then goes to the tent. And somebody posted this meme I posted and forgot to caption it, but when he went in the tent, somebody said Aaron went into his second darkness retreat, and it was the big one. And now he is out for the year with an ACL tear, right? Mm-hmm. And so before we move, here, I'll just kind of touch on the rest of the game. We'll come back to this Aaron Rodgers thing. Zach Wilson didn't look great. The team did win. The Jets won against the Bills, which is no small feat because I think the Bills are a good team. That's I think in large part due to their defense, which was great. And it was in part because of that very last punt return for a touchdown. By the way, did you guys not watch Hard Knocks, right? I believe. No. Xavier Gibson, the guy who ran that back, was featured pretty heavily in Hard Knocks. There were 2 undrafted wide receivers that were in camp, Brownlee and Gibson. And they were fighting to get that last spot because there was only going to be one spot. And they were both so good that they kept them both. And the last one they kept was Xavier Gibson. And he is the guy who ran back the last, what was that? It was a kickoff?
Yeah.
Punt from
a punt return. He ran back that punt return all the way back to the house to win it for the Jets. And boy, did that look like genius that they kept him. And he was a hard worker and good all through camp. And so it was really cool for anybody who watched Hard Knocks that he was the one that scored that touchdown at the end that won them the game. And so that was really cool. I'm really excited for him, an undrafted free agent who made the 53, who then scored the winning touchdown against the Bills when Aaron Rodgers went out and everybody was like, what's going to happen? There's a lot of people don't know what they're feeling right now in Jets Nation. They're like, even though they won, it's just this huge, our year is doomed kind of feeling right now because everybody's looking at Zach Wilson and nobody's feeling super confident that he's going to be amazing through the year. And I agree with them. All of those things I had where I thought the Jets might make it to the Super Bowl, I would like to just go ahead right now and say I scratched that feeling. That's probably not going to happen. But
make sure you announce that for Blake to hear.
Yeah, make sure
did Blake hear that?
Well, Blake, obviously, if your starting quarterback goes down in the 4th snap, predictions are going to be wrong. They're not dumb predictions. Those were not stupid predictions. I think Blake called them, oh, maybe your stupid predictions won't come true now. That's not true. Those were very wise predictions if Aaron Rodgers is in there. It's like, if Josh Allen goes out in the fourth snap, you think about what the Bills are going to be over the whole season, you're not going to put them as high. I don't think those were stupid predictions, but I do think the predictions will change and things will look different as we go through this season. But let's talk about Aaron Rodgers for a minute. Especially, I want to go to Brandon, who, again, always has been a huge Aaron Rodgers fan because he's a Green Bay fan and loved Aaron Rodgers, still might love Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. But I do know that if Aaron Rodgers was still in Green Bay and that would have happened, he would not have been as chatty on text right after, I think. Just knowing Brandon, it would have taken a few days for him to decide to come back to the communication. But Brandon, what's your thoughts on this whole thing?
Yeah, I've said it before. I don't have anything personal against Aaron. I think he served Green Bay well in his time here, and I'm happy he wanted to continue his career somewhere else, and we could kind of work out a deal that worked decent for both parties. Now, part of that deal is for Green Bay to maximize our efforts, required Aaron to play 65% of snaps this season.
That's the
currently
sad part for you.
He's at a couple percent. By the end of the season, he'll be less than 1% because he's not playing the rest of the season. So Green Bay is confirmed to get a second-round pick for this upcoming draft instead of a first-round pick from the Aaron Rodgers deal. We still don't have any of his contract. That's something New York is going to have to work out. He's on the cap for almost nothing this season, but then what was it, Josh? $100 million next season, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I thought they redid that deal. I thought they redid that to even it out and to make it less next year.
I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. Yeah. But it's still a pretty substantial price for the Jets. So they'll have to continue to work something out. They'll probably push a lot of it into the future. Aaron came out on Instagram yesterday and said, Aaron's stuff is always cryptic, and so take what you want from it. But essentially, the darkest time of the night is always just before dawn. And he does not intend on retiring.
That's what it sounded like. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so sounds like Aaron's this is kind of like a 9-month rehab. So by the time the season's over, Aaron's ready to come back. So I would hate for Aaron's legacy to end on the fourth snap of another team. I know that's obviously not what we wanted. If you want to look at the bright side of things, I think as part of Aaron Rodgers' legacy and his injury has kind of forced the NFLPA to hop back on the NFL about artificial turf versus real grass and what is better for player injuries to be playing on, which is real grass. And the statistics are all there, and it's kind of wild how different they are. And so as a part of Aaron's legacy, I think you can kind of attribute his Achilles tear to kind of making that tower fall and finally getting, it won't happen this season, but next season, I think all stadiums will have real grass.
You think
fields.
so? By next season?
By next season.
I don't think by next season. I mean, I think before the World Cup happens, because remember they're transitioning from turf to grass for the World Cup, and I think the Giant Stadium or whatever stadiums they're using. I know they're using all NFC East stadiums except the Commanders. So I guess the Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys, they're transitioning from turf to grass. So I'd say before the World Cup happens, it happens.
When does the World Cup happen?
I think 26. Maybe 25.
Yeah, maybe. But here's a funny story. So Sunday night during the football game, or just after, or towards the end,
Sunday or Monday?
Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday night, when the Cowboys were playing.
Yeah.
Abigail and I called Brian because they were playing each other in fantasy. And I told Brian, I think you need to bench Aaron Rodgers because I think he's going to have a calf injury and it's not going to be good for you and he's not going to get you enough points to win. And I think he was down by like 4 points.
He was.
Yeah,
and I said, I
thought for sure he was going to win.
and I said, what you need to do is you need to go pick up Zach Wilson and put him in your starting lineup. He's going to be the one playing tomorrow night. And so Brian's like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. And lo and behold, snap number 4. And so as soon as that happened, I was driving home. I had the game on in my car. I give Brian a call during commercial break. Yep. And I was just going to say, I warned you. I warned you this was going to happen. Of course, he ignored my call. And about 28 minutes later, he texted me. He's like, I just realized why you called. And then he called me. And so, Brian, if this is a lesson, I know you're going to be listening to this. If this is a lesson, always listen to what I tell you to do for your lineup.
Oh boy.
And this week you play me, so your lesson is bench the whole roster. It'll turn out
work
well.
out. Trust him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a crazy happenstance, and the Jets now, man, looking at Robert Saleh as he was just staring through the rest of that game, you could just see him thinking, "What the heck am I going to do now?" Mm-hmm. And we're going to see.
Yeah, because Zach Wilson is not the answer long term this season.
I think he has said they're going with Zach Wilson
forward
this season.
They got to go forward.
Well, that's what they're saying right now. I know they are looking into options. There was the talk, Tom Brady is going to come to town. What's it going to take? Tom Brady's not coming to town. I'm just going to break it right there.
I'll say this. There was also
Matt Ryan's coming to town. Matt Ryan's not leaving the booth. We know.
Here's the thing. Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz were both talked about, and I'm like, you do not want either one of those.
No. They're talking about maybe trading away their first-round pick this year for a younger guy. I don't know who that younger guy would be.
Yeah, who? Trey Lance is who they should have went after, right? What? But Dallas has him.
Reunite Trey Lance with Robert Saleh. Beauty.
Hey, let's move on to
before we move on. Actually, I'm hoping we only have one viewer, so I'm hoping he's still the only viewer. But we have a comment from our guy. We had him last week. Oh, the whatchamacallit's messed up. But SN Elite was watching last week when you guys were on, and I was in the comments, and he says, "Well, I'm back." And James Conner did better than Williams. I almost lost with you guys. LO. We're not fantasy experts. We're sorry you almost lost, but I started Javonte Williams as well, and he didn't give me the points either. So we're both on the same page. I had as much confidence in him as you did, and it just didn't work out. It's fantasy is a complete gamble, and sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't.
But it's only week one. That does not mean Connor is better the rest of the season.
Like 15 weeks left or 14 weeks left. You can change it. You can go 14-1 for but don't take any advice from us anymore. If
Josh, you're selling yourself so short. I'm going to say take every bit of advice I give you because I'm awesome.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'm the one that has won fantasy football 67% of time we've been in this league, and it will change. Look at the defensive matchups. If that defensive front is awful and you feel better about your offensive line, I am starting that running back 100% of the time. And so look at some other statistics that are out there and really establish for yourself, do I think this offensive line can beat the opposing defensive line that week? And if the answer is yes, start them. If it's yes for both, which one do you think will be better long term? If you think it's going to be more of an aerial attack, maybe don't start them. That's kind of the ways you have to look about it as a league champion. That's what I'm just going to put out there.
And here's one thing I'll say too. Week one always starts crazy, and everybody goes out and drops great players who didn't perform in week one, and then somebody who is really lucky picks them up and has them for the rest of the year. So don't sell one game. Don't sell a player short. It could change. Yeah.
So we also, I don't know, Brandon, do you have Snapchat still?
I do. I saw the thing. I started reading them, and then I had to do something else.
I was going to bring that up. So we talked about Blake for a minute, but so he started a Snap. Well, he posted on Snapchat first. He was like, "Please pray for my former pastor," and then he tagged me and Brandon in it, and he's like, "Because the Cowboys or the Jets are not going to the Super Bowl or whatever." And then so Brandon's in this group chat as well, but he's posted that, and he included this in the group chat, and he said they still have a chance. And Blake said they never had a chance. At best, they were the third best team in the division. And I said that the psychic on Hard Knocks said so. And he says, I mean, and people believe that January 6th is a hoax. I don't know what that means. But
it's a political thing.
Okay.
We'll leave that out of here. This is football only.
Football only.
And then I said something about like the teams that, all the Bills, Bengals, they all lost. And he's like, the Bills are overrated. Originally had the Bengals or Chiefs against the Niners or Cowboys or Cowboys and Eagles in the Super Bowl. So he has the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Well,
he
I'm
always
not
has the
surprised.
Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
That's
His
Blake.
dream Super Bowl is Cowboys Patriots, and he's been saying that the past decade. So
Yeah, but he also said this past off season when we had him on, he's like, I'm sticking to the Cowboys. So let's see how that goes.
Hey, let's move on to the Commanders and your other game.
Well, speaking of the Commanders, this guy we just talked about came back and said Javonte Williams plays the Commanders this week. Connor plays the Giants this week. So I'll give you guys one more shot. Who do I start?
Okay, so
the Giants' defensive front did not look good against Tony Pollard.
Not look good.
They didn't. Now, will that cause them to bounce back, or will that be an indication of what they're going to be moving forward? I would say the Commanders have a strong defense. That doesn't bode well for Williams. Giants did not look good last week. That does bode well for Connor. If it were me, I would pick Connor. That's just looking at last week. So
you also have to put into consideration the Dallas offensive line is the top offensive line in the NFL. And so they're going to be able to handle guys the way that, Connor's offensive line couldn't. And so how are they going to scheme him up? But I like Connor in this one. The Giants defensive front just did not perform whatsoever.
What we could also do is if you have Twitter SN Elite, you can follow us on Twitter and we can make a poll for this specific question. Who do you start in fantasy? Connor, James Conner, Javonte Williams. And what's it? By Sunday at 11 o'clock, I'd say I'll end it at Sunday at 11. You can go back to that poll and see what people voted. And you can decide who you want to start based off other people's votes. Our Twitter, real quick, if you're still watching, our Twitter is
at F.
Yeah, at F Fandom. I was pulling it up though. Our Twitter is right here. You can follow us, and I will make. But he might get it now. He said he doesn't have Twitter, but he might get it now. But anyway, our Twitter is right here. If you get a Twitter or X, as they call it now, we're going to keep calling it Twitter. If you get Twitter, our Twitter is at Fandemic, or you can just look up the Football Fandemic. You'll probably find it. I will create a poll and just saying, one of us is in our league. One of the three of us in our league is deciding to start to James Conner, Javonte Williams, and you can go back in that and look at it if you want and start who you think other people want to start.
Although I'll say this, you can go with a poll or you can go with the experts. And we all say, I'd go Connor. All right, let's go on. Commanders against Cardinals.
So we
thought this was going to be easy.
Yeah, I was going to say that. We all expected this to be an easy game. He also said he appreciates us. Glad you think that because we're not experts at all. We're just, guys on a podcast that have fun. So don't take our opinion seriously, but, we like to give opinions and help other people.
Wait a minute. We have a podcast. That means we're experts.
Experts.
Adam Rake I don't know if Adam Rake has a podcast, though, so we can't.
So he's not an expert. Yeah.
Josh wants to really kind of keep us low key, and the other two of us are like, we're awesome. So I don't know. You probably should listen to Josh.
So back to the Commanders.
Josh, before this game, you said Commanders by 50 doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right? Good thing nobody took my advice. So that's a SN Elite perfect example. I mean, of course I was joking, but I said Commanders by 50, meaning that they win by a lot. They didn't win by a lot. We'll get into that because their offensive line is complete and utter trash. They gave up 6 sacks against a team we all thought was tanking, but they didn't look like they were tanking at all. I mean, their defensive line looked great, or not great, but they looked good enough. They didn't look like they were tanking at all. Their linebackers looked all right. And their secondary looked pretty good in my opinion. And they that defense kept the Cardinals in the game, the whole game. They scored the defense that took their single touchdown, their one touchdown on that fumble from Sam Howell. The rest were field goals. Their offense did not do anything. So if you're looking at a Cardinals team, or if you are a Cardinals fan and you're looking at winning a game or you're not looking at tanking, you're thinking this team is going to tank, whatever, that defense is going to keep you in games. And I will get later into that and a couple segments we have later on. But other than that, Sam Howell, he looked decent. looked like a starting quarterback. Aside from the turnovers, which one interception he had was tipped, and the fumble was just another, I guess, correlation to a terrible offensive line. He got sacked 6 times. One of those sacks was the forced fumble for a touchdown. I know he can do better at protecting the ball himself, on fumbles and running, but he looked good, like passing. Aside from those 2 turnovers, his stat line was 202 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, and then the fumble. But other than that, he looked good. Like, he's making his passes. He missed some that were, could have been big plays. But other than that, like, he made throws. He made plays on the run when he needed to. He made that touchdown on this run with his legs. He made a couple other plays where he just escaped the pocket and ran for a first down or ran for a couple of yards to set them up for a first down next play. Like, he looked like a quarterback that knows how to play football. And I'm actually excited for it. Once we get our offensive line under control and under, repaired, I guess, if you want to say, you're going to make signings. Dalton Risner is still on the block or still in free agency. Somebody else just got cut by a team that is better than our right tackle right now that I'd be looking at. I can't remember who, but if they want to improve the offensive line, they need to sign Dalton Risner, and the guy, I just can't remember his name. He just got cut by someone. But other than that, Sam Howell looked great. And I'm just going to end it there for the Sam Howell talk. But defense kept us in the game. I mean, of course, they gave up, just like this guy said, James Conner scored more points than Javonte Williams, but it was only 12 points. So it's not like it's a great running back score, but it was nothing. It was about an average score for running back, which, they had a couple turnovers. They had 2, Montez Sweat, who was my MVP of the game, had 2 forced fumbles, a tackle for a loss, and a sack. And then I think we had an interception as well. And the defense turnover wise was just on point, and sack wise was just on point. I think we had 3 or 4 sacks total between the defensive line combined. But like, if that defense can keep going forward, I think that's a defense that can keep us in the game when the offensive line really sucks and Sam Howell is at his back, has his back turned again, or has the offensive line has his back turned against Sam Howell, or Sam Howell has to make these plays or whatever. Defense keeps him in that game.
I will say this kind of in response to your breaking down of the Cardinals. I don't think teams tank. I think front offices tank. Mm-hmm. I think players play. And we saw that. I think the players were out there trying to do their best, but their best wasn't enough. And I think it's going to continue. Even though they're trying their best, the front office is basically not helping them. They're not getting the weapons. They're not getting the right personnel. They're obviously, front office is like, oh yeah, look at us. We're not tanking, but they are. Players, they're going to play. And we see that here, which is good. I'm glad that players do that. Even, nobody wants to be known as, oh yeah, we were the team that were junk like all year long. That doesn't help them at all. So,
but you guys talked about the Jets and Bills game. I want to talk about. We kind of went over it a little bit, but I want to talk about the Lions and Chiefs game for a couple of minutes. So, first off, they really need a wider. Travis Kelce was out. That's clear. They're their main target, but aside from a tight end, they really need a wide receiver 1. By the way, I'm still available. Colts haven't signed me yet. So Chiefs, if you need me, you can contact me. But they really need someone who can catch the ball like consistently. What's it? Sky Moore didn't do it.
Like Tyreek Hill?
Kadarius Toney didn't do it. Tyreek Hill does it all the time. They traded him because they didn't want to pay him. That was a mistake. And I don't know, Marcus Valdez-Scantling caught a couple, but he wasn't, as involved as Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore would have been if they caught those balls. So I think Marcus Valdez is easily their number 1 right now, but I think Toney and Moore need to step it up a bit, especially Sky Moore, because he has expectations more than Kadarius Toney, because Toney was traded from New York and everybody was like, oh, he's, not going to good, whatever. And he played well in the playoffs last year, but then he just dropped it all. And
guess who picked up Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney thinking one of these guys have got to be good for Patrick Mahomes? This guy. And they both were bad.
Like I said earlier, when we went over it, with our predictions, when our week 1 overview of their prediction update, Chiefs need a running game to help take pressure off Mahomes. I mean, he can't just keep feeding the ball to Kelce whenever he's in the game. That just can't happen. They need something to help balance the run game and the pass game. And so far they don't have it. Of course, it's only week 1. We don't know, and then for the Lions, David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs will be a nasty duo. Just once they start using Gibbs, I mean, when he was playing, he looked great, but they didn't use him enough. And I think they need to start looking at using Gibbs a lot more than they have, and they did in week 1.
Okay. Well, I think Brandon might have something going on. He had to leave us for a moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he'll be back in just a moment to talk about the Bears and the Packers. But while we're waiting for him, we will go ahead and kind of touch on these. We've touched on everything in our week 1 recap, kind of going through the games, except for the question at the end, who had the best defense of week 1? Who had the best defense? Oh, wait, Brandon's back. Let's talk Packers and Bears before we go on to that.
I am back. My apologies. Personal phone call. Take me away. But let's go ahead and break down Packers-Bears, the most historic rivalry in the NFL and the history of the NFL. Maybe not, the top rivalry in the NFL right now. I feel like there's some other teams that are kind of angling towards that, but definitely the most historic, longest-lasting rivalry. Always, always, always a pleasure to go into Soldier Field and show the Bears their place. The funny part is, and this is the part that makes me laugh the most, I think it was the Chicago Tribune. They came out with their pregame article, and they said, the Bears are a different team than everyone. The Bears all offseason. DJ Moore is going to change this team. Justin Fields is going to be an MVP candidate, just like Jalen Hurts was. We established on this podcast, Justin Fields to Jalen Hurts is a bit of a stretch. We feel like Justin Fields, Kyler Murray is more accurate. I don't want to take anything away from Justin Fields. He is probably the best athlete in the NFL, but it's not throwing the football, being a quarterback, time management, all of that. And you can see that because every defense he goes against somehow miraculously never gets taken down behind the line of scrimmage. It's always 60 yards down the field, the safety is chasing him down. And you have to be a top tier athlete to be able to do that. So I don't want to take that away from Justin Fields. He is a phenomenal athlete, as was Mitch Trubisky. It's kind of the Bears thing. They want phenomenal athletes, and they think you can just learn the quarterback position. Anyway, Chicago Tribune said Bears are going to win 28-20. Well, guess what happened? The Packers won 38-20. The Packers won 38-20, not the Bears. And that made me laugh the most. A few big points here. Jordan Love, currently in the NFL right now, number 1 for touchdown to interception ratio, 3-0. Great stat to have. Mm-hmm. One of those touchdowns being a long one to Aaron Jones. 2 other ones were Romeo Doubs. And great catches by Romeo Doubs, by the way. 2 very different catches.
By the way, everybody who was picking the Bears to win over the Packers in our poll, they were going on this assumption that Christian Watson was out and Romeo Doubs was probably out. And boy, Romeo Doubs not being out, that was huge. That was big for Green Bay.
I mean, what's his name? Your rookie receiver, Reed, right? He's out for a couple of weeks, right?
I don't think that's confirmed yet.
Okay. I know he got injured, and I know that was your second receiver because Watson was out, and I was like, he's either going to step up or he's not going to do well. And I don't know what happened, but I believe Romeo Doubs really took a lot of the action away.
Well, so Romeo was on a snap count. He's also injured. Yeah. And so Romeo was not playing every down. Romeo was out there for 15 snaps for the game. And 2 of those snaps were touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate having Romeo Doubs, but you also have to understand Romeo Doubs was not the guy out there doing receiver stuff.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. And we've talked about this. Aaron Jones, in my opinion, is the best player to be running back and receiver in the NFL. And I think we've seen that. And not to take anything away from any of these other catching backs, but Aaron Jones has quite literally caught 50-yard balls, adjusting his body in ways that you do not see from running backs. It's another freak athletic thing. And so I was excited for that. Another thing Jordan Love is the number 1 quarterback rating in the NFL right now, which is kind of cool. Being the, NFL's ranked 29th best quarterback from that list Matthew and I looked at. It was Jordan Love, Anthony Richardson, Sam Howell, and then Dobbs from Arizona. We're like that was the bottom of the league. And
CJ Stroud was in there somewhere too.
yeah. But Jordan Love was not high, and he played like exactly where I said he would be, kind of middle of the pack quarterback overall. I don't think Justin Fields is going to be an MVP. I think this game made it clear. The Bears still don't know how to utilize him long term. It's clear that his best play on every down is going to be Justin Fields with the ball in his hand, not throwing it. And that is not a sustainable model for winning. And to the Bears' credit, they were like, okay, we need to just, if you need to check it down, check it down. If you see an opening down the field, get that opening. And Justin Fields was doing that. So to his credit, he was trying to be a quarterback with a run option last. And I appreciate that.
Not to his credit, he only targeted DJ Moore a few times at the very beginning of the game. He needed to do that more.
And do you know why? So here it is.
I knew this was coming. That's why I set it up.
Those few times he targeted DJ Moore were the only times DJ Moore was not covered by Jair Alexander.
And there it is.
And Justin Fields has thrown Jair Alexander's way twice in his career. Both times interceptions. Both times.
Got him afeared.
Oh yeah. Let me take it away from the offense. I can talk about this Packers team all day. Let's hit special teams just very briefly. Anders Carlson nailed a 52-yarder pretty well. I still am not 100% sold on him. You know, he's got this small window of really good kicks and a much larger window of really bad ones. And so I need that margin to shrink of bad kicks compared to good kicks. And then I'll start having confidence in him. I think week 8, week 9, if we see that we're going to be going strong with 0 missed kicks or maybe 1 missed field goal from 55 or something like that, I'll feel pretty confident in him. Week 1, just a 52-yarder, still a good kick, but I can't put all of my eggs in his basket yet. All right, transition to defense. This is my favorite part. The Packers had 6 different players with tackles for losses in this game. That's hard to do. You have people from the secondary coming and making tackles for losses. Darnell Savage had a great one. Darnell Savage is the guy I said on this podcast, I'm not sure if he's going to be a Packer much longer. If he plays the way he did week 1 in Chicago, he's going to be a Packer for a very long time. He's going to get a contract extension. And this is his contract year. So he needs to be putting up every week the way he just did. He played aggressive. He did not hold back, and he just went straight for the player with the ball. And that happened a number of times. One of the plays that didn't count as a tackle for a loss because it's technically a sack, and my favorite defensive play of the game, and I'll get to some other ones. It's probably not what everyone's thinking. It was Lucas Van Ness, our first-round pick out of Iowa, sacked Justin Fields when Justin was trying to get out of the pocket. And you might be like, oh, Brandon, he just made a tackle. That was it. Do you know how many people successfully have sacked Justin Fields trying to get out of the pocket? It's 2% of people. 2% of all defenders, when Justin is trying to get out of pocket, successfully sack him. He changed his angle and chased down Justin Fields. That is freak athleticism and really good play recognition. And so having that and just seeing that one play, he really didn't do anything else the rest of that game that was noteworthy, but that one play, wow, that gives me hope. We do have Quay Walker, who improved greatly last season, one of the top middle linebackers in the NFL last season, had some attitude issues on the field, didn't have an attitude issue this game. The Bears offensive line did not like Jair Alexander, but that's a different deal because Jair also chased down Justin Fields. Anyway, Quay Walker, a pick 6. Justin Fields' last pick 6, he said in the postgame interview, I am never throwing one again. You will not have to worry about it. Quay Walker comes out and says, bet, I'm going to get a pick 6. So it wasn't even anything spectacular. It was just awful reading of the defense by Justin Fields. The pressure was not on him. We rushed 4 guys. The Bears offensive line held up relatively well. Justin just throws the ball right into the zone coverage that Quay Walker is covering. And then when they try to tackle Quay Walker, he just bounces off of them, loops around, and then takes the ball in for a touchdown. I thought he was going to be down and the offense was coming out. Nope, Quay Walker is out there. Now, when he was going in for that touchdown, there was an offensive lineman hit him underneath and his helmet came off. He's out with a concussion right now. He did not return to the game after that play. He was taken to the locker room. So he's going through concussion protocol, standard operation. It'll probably be 2 to 3 weeks before we see him on the field again. So I just hope he goes through, gets all good, and then comes back on and continues the trajectory he was having. Scary defense. And everyone says, Brandon, it's just the Bears. It's just the Bears. I get it. They were literally the worst team in the NFL last season. I understand. But good teams go and handily beat bad teams. If this game was 21-20, yeah, I'd understand. Brandon, it's just the Bears. You beat them by a freaking point. We beat them by 18 points. Good teams beat these bad teams by large margins, and that's what happened. And so this gives me hope in the Packers and confidence that they can go out and start doing some pretty fun stuff. Maybe the greatest show on grass, because we don't use turf. And we'll go from there.
Well, this is a perfect transition into our question: who's the best defense in Week 1?
Actually, before we do that,
why do we have to have an actually before? Because this is
I didn't want to interrupt. I didn't want to interrupt Brandon, but it's just we don't have to really to reply to anything. It's more so just comments as we go through. But so Cameron, who was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, said in our comments while Brandon was going through his Bears Packers review, says Bears suck. Aaron Jones is the best running back of the NFC North.
Facts.
Bears don't have an O-line, period. Screens aren't going to cut it for the Bears. You also have to think that the Packers defense is going up against the worst offensive line in the league, which is
which is true. I mean, the Bears offensive line sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to go out there and play.
Yeah.
And the Packers didn't think, oh, they have the worst offensive line in the league. The Packers went out there and played. And that's what you have to do. It doesn't matter if it's the worst offensive line in the league. It doesn't matter if it's the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, which is the best offensive line in the league. You have to go out there and you have to play. If you're not playing, get off the field. I don't want you on there.
Mm-hmm.
So Week 1, defense.
Packers.
I'm going to go 49ers.
Oh, that's a good one.
This is actually Cameron suggested this to me at work. He was on also. He says the Jets. So we're all in a different.
I like the Jets.
Yeah. So we're all in a different opposition or different, I guess, opinion because I'm taking the Cowboys.
Oh, look at
I also like the Cowboys defense. That's another option.
4 full different ones. Yeah.
Yeah. I am biased. Cameron put in, can the Packers defense play like that against the Falcons? Cameron, like I just said, if you go out there and play ball, I don't care what team you're up against as long as you're playing ball. Yes, the Packers defense can play like that against the Falcons, who also have a bad offensive line, and their quarterback is not as trigger happy as Justin Fields for getting out of the pocket.
All right. Hey, we're going to move on. We're at 58 minutes. We got stuff to cover. Let's hit some quick score predictions for this coming week for our homer teams. I'll start. Colts are playing the Texans. I expect the Colts to win this one. I know I said that last week, but this is really their next only best shot at the beginning of the year here. And they're going against C.J. Stroud, who did not look great. So I'm going to go 24-13. That's 3 touchdowns and a field goal for the Colts. A touchdown and 2 field goals.
Yeah, I kind of put that in there just to give a score prediction. But do you also have any like preview, info that you want to talk about? Like Richardson needs to step up or these things, you know what I mean?
Richardson needs to step in these things. No, here's what's going to happen is Richardson will continue to grow week by week. We're going to see like him kind of learn stuff from last week. I expect this week he will not be running at the goal line as much, although he did get a touchdown last week, but he'll be more careful. Hopefully he starts sliding more. Defense will be key, because C.J. Stroud looked really bad and got sacked a lot. So I expect that we need to do similar things. The other thing is that the Texans really allowed out of the slot a lot of score last week. So I expect Pittman ran out of the slot a lot this last week, and he did well. So I expect him and Josh Downs, who is also slot, to be pretty featured. Alec Pierce, needs to just start catching something. Right now, he's like got a lot of promise, but if he's not careful, he's going to turn into Mike Strawn. So, yep, I don't have a whole lot more to say about that. Commanders, let's go.
So for them, the keys for them to win the game, I'm just going to give a couple key points before I give my score prediction. For the keys for them to win the game, A, offensive line needs to protect. That's probably 100% of what you need to do, because you win against the Cardinals defense that we all thought was going to be bad. They overperformed expectations in everybody's eyes. And this week you're going against the Broncos defense that got 0 sacks on every rush. They got every pass rush they attempted last week, I believe, if I remember right. I saw something about that on YouTube. I think on the NFL's Broncos Commanders preview or whatever that they do. So it's just it may be another easy thing, but offensive line is really bad. But key thing is offensive line needs to protect Sam Howell. They're fine in their running game. I mean, they're okay in the running game. Not great, but the second thing is you need to get more of Antonio Gibson involved in the passing game. I didn't see much of it. And if you hand the ball off to Brian Robinson and, he does the ground and pound, that's great. But you need to get Antonio Gibson more involved, because nobody, as of last week, we all expected him to be more involved. And going into this week, I feel people are going to think that now that he's not going to be involved. You need to get him involved. People aren't going to expect it. And 3, you need just Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin need to perform better. And I'm not saying that is like they played bad, but you win against the Cardinals defense. We all thought they'd get over like 15 fantasy points each. I mean, I understand Terry McLaurin. He had an injury, or he's still healing from his turf toe, but it's week 2 now where he should be playing. If he was out last week, he'd probably be in this game. So both of them should be fully healthy and fully ready to go. They need to get at least a touchdown each, and I'd say 75 yards. One of them needs to get 75 yards or 100 yards. The other needs to get 50. And the third thing is, or the fourth thing, I can't remember this, probably fourth. Defense needs to just contain Russell Wilson. He still has the ability to move out of the pocket and scramble like he did back in his prime, get a couple yards on the ground, or, scramble out of the pocket and, be able to just heave one up in the air off his back foot type stuff. He still has to be able to do that. You need to be able to contain him so he doesn't be able to do that, because that's where we perform our weakness. That's where our weakness is, where whenever a quarterback is out of the pocket and we're still, I guess, clinged, if you want to say, to the offensive line because we can't get to him. So keep him in the pocket and you'll get a couple sacks, couple TFLs, etc. Final score prediction, 24-14 Commanders. I don't see it going any different than last week. The Broncos, their offense is better than the Cardinals for sure, but I see this being more of a step-up game, for Eric Bieniemy, Sam Howell, and the offense.
All right.
Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay travels to Atlanta. I think key matchups in this game. Keep in mind, I think Christian Watson, if he does play, will be on a snap count. That's if he plays. Aaron Jones, if he plays, will be on a snap count. Romeo Doubs, if he plays, will be on a snap count. And Jaden Reed, if he plays, will be on a snap count.
It's going to be ifs.
pretty young, and pretty young guys out there. So it's going to be all about the scheme Matt LaFleur draws up for them. He had a few really good ones to Luke Musgrave, our tight end. One of them was for like a 45-yard pass completion, and they just kind of looked at the defense and said, "Oh, this is what the defense is doing. Okay, Luke Musgrave, just kind of go up and out and up, and no one will be on you." And lo and behold, no one was on him. That's going to be kind of the key for the offense, is keeping these guys. They will play, but they'll be on snap counts, so they're going to get limited snaps throughout the game. But using them in crucial moments where you need them is going to be the key for the offense to score during this game. On the defensive side, just fly like everything.
Like an eagle?
Like a falcon. Go fly like a falcon.
Oh.
That works. And just go out there and play tough football. Don't second guess yourself. Use your instincts and go after the ball. That clearly worked last week. It worked at the end of last season when the Packers defense really started to click. And you got to do that again. We got to go into Atlanta and get a win. Keep in mind, their quarterback is still trying to figure out what a pocket presence is. And he was hit the most times out of any quarterback last week, I believe. So that's going to be an opportunity for this Packers front to get up there. And if he throws the ball, the secondary, you got to take advantage of that. I'd like to see an interception or two from the defense, thanks to the defensive front, getting to the quarterback and putting that pressure on him. I have a final score prediction, and it's a bit lower due to the question marks on offense. I think Packers still win, but I think 24-21, win by a field goal, get Anders Carlson some more experience in there.
Okay. Let's move on to our marquee manure and my oh my matchups. And I'm going to throw these up on the screen here. You see, we start with Minnesota, Philly. Got a whole bunch of games on Sunday, ending with Miami, New England. And on Monday, we got a double header. New Orleans, Carolina, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Let's start with Brandon. Brandon, what is your marquee matchup? We'll go marquees first, all of us, then manures, then my oh my. So marquee, Brandon.
I got Seahawks at Lions. To me, this is going to be
Lions, right in the middle there.
The Lions came out and proved they could play football against a stellar team. The Seahawks came out last week and laid an egg. The Lions need to go in and just completely demolish Seattle the way we think they can, or Seattle's going to come back and be like, whoa. We're not that team you saw last week. This is the team we are. And they're going to put up a fight against Detroit. This was a game last season, I think also within the first month of football, where Detroit went in there and had one of the greatest offensive performances we had all of last season. And their defense went in there and just let Seattle score on every drive. And Seattle won the game because of that. So this defense is going to be hungry and be like, yeah, you ain't going to do that to us again this year. So I think it's going to be a good matchup, a marquee matchup, a game I want to watch.
Okay, that's the marquee. I'm going to go marquee this week, KC Jacksonville, because I think KC's going to have back Kelsey. I think. I haven't looked at that actually, but I think I heard that he might. And Jacksonville coming off of a win. I'd like to see how those two match up and see if they learned anything last week from the Lions when they watch that game as their defense gets ready. So I'm going to go KC Jacksonville just a little bit later. I mean, at the same time of the day on Sunday. How about you, Josh?
I have Dolphins, Patriots. The way the Dolphins played last week against a very good team, the Chargers, by the way, they just lit them up. And the way the Patriots defense played last week against the Eagles, NFC, the winners last week, this is going to be a good game. It's really an interesting one because if the Patriots defense can play this game like they did last week, and the Dolphins offense can play this game like they did last week with Tua, Waddle, and Tyreek, I think this is going to be closer. I still think the Dolphins win, but I think this is going to be closer than people expect it to be, just because people think the Patriots are going to be bad. But I think because of the Patriots defense, this game is going to be a lot closer than people think it will be. Sunday Night Football, by the way.
Yeah, it'll be a good one to watch, and I agree. It's going to be fun to watch that defense against that offense. And I agree. I think Miami will win. But what's the manure game? What's the game nobody should even worry about tuning into? Like my manure game that two of us at least did not tune into, and Josh only got a part. What's the manure this week, Brandon?
I got Jets at Dallas. I saw what Dallas did to New York last week. They're going to come in and they're going to do another thing similar, but at home this time. I don't have confidence that the Jets and Zach Wilson are going to pull out a victory against this Dallas defense. I just don't.
He says that's manure. Don't even watch it. I'm going even more manure, and that is Chicago, Tampa Bay. I know Baker figured out something against the Vikings last week, but you know what? I still have no faith in either one of these teams. Sorry, Chicago fans. Sorry, Tampa Bay fans. I just don't think that's going to be a very good game. Somebody will win. I won't care. So it's a tie. I don't think it's a tie. If we voted it's a tie, then
no, we didn't. We didn't, but it could be. That's what I'm saying. But my manure game is also Brandon's manure game. I think Cowboys, Jets without Aaron Rodgers now. Cowboys defense is going to continue to do work, and I'm glad I have him in fantasy in one of my leagues. But I just think the Jets defense is good too. But I just think that at some point the Jets are going to have to stop relying on handing the ball off to Breece Hall or Dalvin Cook, and Zach Wilson's going to have to do something. And I don't know because he did all right last year. They went 7-10 or 8-9 or something like that, but that was a lot of the defense that did that work. So I don't know if he's ready to step up and be that quarterback yet. And if it's against the Cowboys, I don't see it happening. That defense is too strong for him to prove himself in this game.
Guys, what would you do? This just occurred to me. If the Jets didn't win another game this year and they ended up getting the number 1 overall pick and picking Caleb Williams.
You mean the Packers get the first, second round pick?
They would get the first.
That's what you're telling me?
That's what I'm telling you.
I'm fine.
Anyway,
I'm fine with that.
That's the manure games. What about the my oh my?
Yeah. So Adam, I'm guessing it's Adam. AC commented it. Zach Wilson breakout this week. So he is in opposition.
AC, you just hold on there, Adam Caldwell, because I got something to say about this. I'm just like waiting and letting these guys say their piece before I destroy them later. AC.
Well, let's start with Matthew for my oh my.
My oh my. Well, this is not the my oh my game. The my oh my is Baltimore Cincinnati. For me, wherever that game went, it's up. I think Cincinnati comes back. Now, we know historically, Joe Burrow plays his worst football in the first 2 weeks of the year. Every year. He doesn't play well in the first 2 weeks. So he might not play great this week, but I do think he will be better looking than he was last week. I think some of that rust will get shaken off. Baltimore, they lost a running back, right? Dobbins, J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
And
for the season.
They may or may not have Mark Andrews back. I think there's some question marks there. I think it's going to be an interesting game because I think they're both still strong. And so I want to see what happens. That's all. Yeah, that's all. Let's go with Josh next.
My oh my is Matthew. I believe it was Matthew's marquee game. Jaguars over Chiefs or at Chiefs. Actually, sorry, Jaguars and Chiefs.
Where are they at?
I think that like the way the Chiefs played last week without Tyreek Hill and without Chris Jones, they'll be getting both of them back. I'm sure of it. But I think this is a closer game than people think. I think the offense in Jacksonville is ready. I think they finally have an offense that they can work with. The defense is not quite there yet, but they are serviceable. And I think this is like they almost didn't the Jaguars last year in the divisional almost beat the Chiefs. And I think this is going to be another close game. This is one you have to watch because to see it happen. If the Jaguars what I'm saying is if the Jaguars upset the Chiefs, I wouldn't be surprised. But this is when you have to watch to believe it, basically, to believe that the Jaguars are that team in the AFC South and are a contender for the Super Bowl. And this is one of those games that they're going to have to prove it. And I think this maybe happens. I don't know.
Brandon, what's your my oh my?
I think I might get a surprise one. I could also see this being a manure game, but I think it's going to be closer than some people think. I got Bears at Buccaneers. And the reason I'm going this one is it's really going to define for me what both of these teams are. And so I have the Bears.
Here's the thing. If either one wins, does that really make you think that the other one's good?
No, it's not about winning the game. It's about what we're going to see them.
Who they are. How will it define them?
Not in terms of wins, but it's going to determine how they're going to play this game for the rest of the season. Is Baker going to actually be a competent quarterback? This is a toss-up for him. It's going to be easy. That secondary is non-existent.
I would say this, though. If Baker wins, I don't feel like that means he's a good quarterback because he beat the Bears in week 2. If the Bears win, I don't think that means they're suddenly got it on track because they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just don't see how beating either one of these teams defines how your rest of your season's looking.
Again, it's not about a win for either team. Like I said, it's my third time saying it. It's about how these teams are going to play that will define what they do the rest of the season.
Well, yes. And you can get that from this game?
Yes.
Okay. I think manure. He thinks my oh my. You guys watch it. Tell us what you think after when we come back next week because, maybe it'll be super exciting. And all you Bears fans out there are like, well, heck yeah, it's going to be our first win, hopefully, right? Hey, Josh wanted to add a couple more to this. We're going to go fast, but what's the game that's a lock this week? Lock, you just are sure this team is going to win. Who wants to start here? Because I have a definite opinion. Okay.
49ers over Rams.
I think I am right with you on that. I'm not even going to take time to say other stuff. 49ers over LA.
All right. Mine, the game tonight, Eagles over Vikings. Vikings looked just not in the same world as they were last year. I mean, we kind of predicted that because we have them at 7-10 or 8-9 this season, but they did not look good. They didn't have a running game. Justin Jefferson and Addison were their only receivers that actually did something, and Kirk Cousins just looked not like Kirk Cousins from last year. And the Eagles, they looked exactly the same from last year. I think this is going to be not a blowout, but I'd say a double-digit win, and the Eagles win.
Okay, Josh, we're going to stick with you and just go, what's your upset of the week? What is the upset that's going to happen?
Upset, Cardinals over Giants. Both teams looked very, very bad, at least offensively last year. Giants look terrible defensively also. But I think the Cardinals, with the defense that surprised everybody in week 1, and the Giants' terrible offense that was showcased against the Cowboys week 1, I think the Cardinals have an edge. If the Cardinals can get their offensive working just a tiny bit, they have the upset, I believe, over the Giants.
I would just say this. Is it really an upset when the Giants scored 0 points last week?
I don't know, maybe. I just think a lot of people think the Giants will win.
You're looking at last year or expectations, but as far as games this season, I don't know if that's an upset or not. Maybe. How about you, Brandon? What's your upset?
I got Jaguars over Chiefs.
Jags over Chiefs. Any reasoning?
Not for the sake of time.
Okay. I'm going to stay on this same page here, but mine is Adam Caldwell. Jets are going to beat Dallas. That's the upset of the week. Everybody expects Dallas to just pound the Jets. Everybody on here expects that. Everybody in the media, everybody in the world expects that. I'm going to say the upset is that defense comes in and does great things, and that Zach Wilson gets just enough with his receivers, and they surprise everybody and they go 2-0. Do I think that means they're going to keep winning? No, but I think this week that's going to be an upset that everybody's going to be like, what in the world just happened? Maybe Zach Wilson goes off like Adam Caldwell predicted.
Yeah, Cameron and Adam both agree with you, Matt.
Yep.
What's that?
Cameron and Cameron and Adam both agree with you.
That's right. Good job, guys. You know. So the three of us against the world. We say New York Jets are going to surprise everybody. Hey, let's go to a commissioner's minute here for our fantasy football league. Brandon, what do we got in the way of fantasy this week that needs to be talked about?
Please vote on the thing Josh made.
5 responses so far.
Yeah, you got till tonight, the start of the game.
How'd those games go last week? Who like scored the most in the league?
On our Facebook chat. Let me look. You were actually the highest, Matt. I do remember.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know. That's so surprising to me. What? I had 147.
Oh no, I'm talking.
And I had 2 guys with 0 on my roster.
I thought you were talking about like the prediction stat, like you.
No, I'm talking about scores from last week.
Then I don't know.
I was awesome. I had 2 guys with 0, and I still had the by far highest score in the league.
Adam wants a recount. He doesn't believe it. Adam, we'll get together and figure out an appropriate score for Matthew. We'll change
Matthew. And yes, so number 1 in the league, which is why I did not get any of my waiver wire pickups, and Brandon got them all.
So I'm number 4.
Number 4. A lowly number 4.
And that's it for my commissioner's minute. Let's review some quick fantasy stuff, Josh. We're not going to dig into it too fast. Just kind of gut reactions on what we think is going to happen.
Fantasy predictions. That's all of them. How'd you like them, guys? I know I have not yet thought of my fantasy predictions because I haven't got to see everybody's lineups. Everybody's got to get those lineups in before I can truly say, I think this person's going to win, that person's going to win. But we do want you all to vote.
Mm-hmm. Because Brandon will buy you a Tesla if you win above us.
Tesla.
Well, maybe
if something called Tesla flavored ice cream.
Yeah, he'll buy you ice cream. I'll send you money.
Yeah, maybe a Hot Wheels Tesla. That's about as close as you're going to get.
And also, I think during the regular season, we're maybe not going to do the NFL grid trivia because we just have so much to talk about. We'll do that in our summers, and you guys can always let us know if you get those. But what's our social media shout outs?
So, because we were talking earlier with this with SN Elite, and I said we'll make this poll. So I just wanted to quickly let everybody know where you can find us on social media for, exclusive content, or just the clips from the podcast you might have missed, or just, the graphics that we create I create for the MVP stuff, or just random graphics. So you can find us on Instagram. Let me zoom in real quick for these. At the Football Fandemic, just no spaces, just the Football Fandemic. You'll find our logo here, and you can find our predictions, or our predictions from week 1, or these graphics, or just random clips that we get throughout the week. On Twitter, or on TikTok, sorry, you can find us also at the Football Fandemic. Same thing as Instagram, no spaces, right here. And you'll find a little bit different content on TikTok. You'll find, the highlights still. You'll find these, videos from my highlights, and you'll also find memes that I'll find, on CapCut, these templates that I make that'll go correlating with the NFL stuff. This one about Sam Howell, or this one about Aaron Rodgers, and this one about the Chiefs losing. So you'll find more exclusive content on TikTok than any of our 3 social media platforms. But Instagram is also kind of up there with exclusive content that I don't post on Twitter. And then on Twitter, we kind of already talked about it. You can find us at FFandemic, or just look up the Football Fandemic, and you can find, polls like this one, where this person in our comments a couple of minutes ago, maybe 30 minutes ago, asked, who should I start, James Conner or Javonte Williams? Because we're not experts. So I told him I'll start a poll on Twitter, and he can, see what those people think and make a decision based off that, or just random stuff like, where is it at? Highlights. I'll just, Pro Football Focus will post something like, name a quarterback like this one. Name a quarterback that'll shock people in 2023. And more so, I'll focus on our homer teams. But, like this, Sam Howell will shock people. And I'll post a clip of that player, and you can agree with it or disagree with it and comment. But more so, highlights on Twitter of our live stream, and highlights of the NFL if a question is asked by PFF or NFL or whatever.
Okay, so lots of places out there you can kind of connect up with what's going on here at the Football Fandemic. Whoa, that was loud. We're so excited you guys could join us for Week 1 recap. Week 2 is coming. Come back to see if the Jets can beat Dallas, and all of our other crazy predictions, because unlike Josh, I think we are experts here at the Football Fandemic.